Hi James, how you going?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Eva.
All right, so you flew down from Canberra today.
Yes.
How was that flight?
It was a little bit choppy early. It was a bit windy in Canberra, but all smooth when I got down here to Melbourne, which was great.
And you were saying that wind is a regular occurrence in Canberra.
Yeah, sometimes with the mountains around the city, it can get a little windy coming in and out, but smooth flying after that.
Excellent. So you're the ambassador for the Hidden Sunflowers service.
Yep.
Do you want to? Would you share how you came to be the ambassador?
Yeah, well, my ambassador journey probably starts with my own disability journey, which was back in 2018. So I was a really fit and healthy guy in his late 30s. I was director of a busy consulting business. I was coaching a boys' sport, doing a lot of sport myself, lots of mountain bike riding around Canberra, swimming, running. And then one day I just woke up and everything sort of changed. I was really dizzy. I was struggling to stand up. I had a lot of tiredness and was struggling to walk as well, just feeling very lightheaded and dizzy. So I went on this journey for a few months, seeing lots of different specialists about what was wrong with me, specialists in Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, and it wasn't until early 2019 that I got a diagnosis, and that was for a condition called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, also known as POTS. And that was helpful to get a diagnosis. I tried a whole bunch of treatments over the next sort of 12 months, but unfortunately none of them worked. So I was still struggling, particularly standing and walking. I also then got a diagnosis of myalgic encephalomyelitis, long word, which is commonly referred to as chronic fatigue syndrome, and now is often referred to as ME/CFS. As time went on, I was having more and more energy issues and struggling with any kind of sort of mental or sort of physical exertion. And it was also starting to impact me cognitively. I went part-time in, I think, 2022 to try and see if that would help, but it didn't really make much difference. And then in 2023, I made the difficult decision to stop work completely and just manage my condition from there. With the sunflower, it was actually my mum who told me about it. She sent me an article about it, I think sometime in 2023. So then I became aware of the sunflower, and then I joined at the start of this year. I just thought this organisation, the concept just really resonates with me, of helping people with hidden disabilities. And so I rang them up and said, I'm happy to try and help in some way, raise awareness. So that's how I came to be the ambassador.
Wow. And you have a family, don't you?
Yes.
So this must impact on that as well.
Yeah, certainly. Particularly, I think with my boys early on, I wasn't able to be as active as I would have liked. But you do adjust, and just spending time with them is the key. But certainly it did change things, and also around the house, definitely not as helpful as I'd like to be with some house activities. But you find your way over time and contribute in some way.
And your boys would be accustomed to you by now as well. How old are they?
They're now 17 and 14.
Wow.
At the time,
Yeah.
when it started, well, the youngest was quite young, so he probably doesn't remember too many sort of times before that too vividly. But they've been great, and as I said, you just find other things to do, more watching sport than playing sport.
Okay. Can you go into the neurological links? We spoke about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of people don't realise, but ME/CFS is actually classified by the World Health Organization as a neurological disease, and it does impact neurology quite a lot. So in my case, and so does POTS, for everyone, there's the sort of inflammation on the brain, and that certainly impacts cognitively. So that means trying to remember information and general memory as well, processing information can be challenging. I'm pretty good for short spurts like this, and then just tend to taper off quite quickly after that. There's also an impact on the autonomic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that supposed to do things automatically, particularly with the pot side. So standing up in normal people, the brain sends a signal to pump blood further up the body. That signal breaks down. People with POTS and often with ME/CFS as well. So you don't get enough blood flowing up to the brain. That's when you get the dizziness, lightheadedness, and inability to sort of think on your feet, literally. Yeah. So there's a big neurological component to ME/CFS and POTS.
And is it genetic? How did you acquire this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not entirely sure. I think for a lot of people with ME/CFS, there is a virus that precedes it, so it's a post-viral illness. I didn't think that was me at the time, but when I went back through my medical records a few years later, I did actually have a virus a couple of months beforehand, and it was probably my body not fully recovering from that and triggering a long-term illness. So that's generally the case, but there are all sorts of different reasons.
Cool. As we both know, hidden disabilities can be a huge issue for anybody, but can you share examples from your own experience?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest challenge with someone with a hidden disability like myself is you can't see it. People don't know. And so it's a bit of a perception challenge. Give you an example. Last year I was driving into a busy car park and I was driving into a disabled spot. Sometimes I need the disabled spot because there are some days when I really struggle to stand up and walk. And I was driving in and I was literally only halfway into the car park and a guy was sort of waving at me. And I sort of wound out my window and he said, "Mate, you can't park there. That's for people with disabilities." I showed him my permit on the windshield and just sort of raised it for him, and he sort of looked at me kind of puzzled and then just walked off. I think that's a good example of someone who thought that because I wasn't old, you could see that through the windscreen, and was driving a car, I couldn't be disabled. I'm sure that he meant well. I'm sure that he thought, I want to make sure that spot's available for someone who's disabled. So I didn't sort of think ill of him at all. But I think it just highlights that perception challenge of people who have an invisible or sort of hidden disability. Another example was more recently, I love to travel. I do have to do a little bit differently these days, but I do love to travel. And I was in an airport overseas earlier this year, and I came off the plane and there was a aisle going down to the customs, and it had a wheelchair symbol above it, but only a wheelchair symbol. And I thought I'd really want to go down there because I can't stand for very long. But I just didn't feel I had the permission because it only had the wheelchair symbol, and the only people going down there were people in wheelchairs. So I just sort of slugged it out in the normal line. I'm sure some people would have just gone down that line. But I think the challenge with people with hidden disabilities, you do feel uncomfortable sometimes to do that when you look completely fine, and the judgment that will likely come. So yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge, the perception challenge that you have in the community, I think, yeah.
I'd like to offer to you, after a little bit more time with your disability, you probably feel quite well within your rights to go down that the wheelchair lane. I mean, I would,
Yeah, I think I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And there's certainly times when I do that, but that's where the sunflower comes in as well, because it really helps empower you to do that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people like me who do feel uncomfortable. It's just human nature, I think.
Of course, yeah. Human nature and acquisition of a disability.
Yeah.
After having lived without one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. How does the Hidden Sunflower service help?
It helps a lot, in short. Essentially, it's a communication tool. And the people who wear the sunflower, so that comes in different forms. So you've got a lanyard, you've got the wristband, which is great, pin, whatever you feel comfortable with. It's essentially just a subtle indicator to people that you might need some kind of help, whether that's just a little bit more time, just a little bit more understanding. It depends on the situation. I might take you back to the beginning of the sunflower journey because it's sort of, it helps to sort of paint the picture about why it's sort of needed. It actually started in 2016 at Gatwick Airport in London, and they could see the people that they know needed help coming through their environment, people in wheelchairs, walking frames, etc. But they knew that there were millions of people going through their airport every year who found it really challenging, but they couldn't see. They couldn't see it because they couldn't see their disabilities. So they came up with this symbol to allow them to see those people, and they trained their staff to recognise the symbol and simply just go up to them and say, is there any way we can help and make the experience easier? And from there, it's just exploded, particularly through the aviation industry early on. I think there's over 250 airports worldwide who are now members, have trained all their staff to recognise the symbol, but also in transport, so trains and buses, trams. So it certainly started strongly in transport networks because they're really challenging environments. But then it just exploded into all sorts of other environments, sporting venues, and then more recently just into workplaces. So not necessarily workplaces that are customer facing like a sporting venue, but just workplaces because it helps with inclusion and people feeling comfortable at work. So in terms of Australia's Hidden Disability Sunflower Journey, that started in 2020 with a great organisation called Bailey House, which is here in Melbourne. They help people with intellectual disabilities, adults with intellectual disabilities, reach their full potential. They are the leader and distributor of the Sunflower program in Australia and New Zealand. It's a fantastic organisation. And some of their clients actually do the packing of the merchandise twice a week at their office, which is really cool. And so in Australia, just hundreds and hundreds of businesses have joined in all sort of walks of life. Obviously the transport, the airports around Australia, sporting venues, MCG, Adelaide Oval, big organisations, Commonwealth Bank, David Jones, but also just sole traders, mum and dad operations. The subscription for the program, there's 5 levels, and it suits the biggest organisations in the world and single sole traders. So yeah, it's a great initiative.
Yeah, it's great because Australia was a very difficult place to have a disability, whether you could see it or not. Not very considerate place, Australia, and so I love that the Hidden Sunflower has become so widely known and so well known. It's kind of encouraging humanity in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think one of our member clients said recently, it just makes you feel a little bit more human
Yes.
for the people who wear it. So it's sort of got 2 sides to it. You've got the wearers, the person with a disability, or their carer, and they wear the green. So if you have a hidden disability, you wear the green sunflower, and if you're a supporter, you wear the white. So I often wear
So is that
both. So that's the supporter one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so you have the wearers, and then you have the organisations who are members. And it's really easy. If you become a member, you just train up your staff. It's a 10-minute video on how to essentially recognise the symbol. And you don't have to be an expert in disability at all. You just have to have an open mind. And if you see the symbol, just ask if you can help make their experience with your organisation easier. So the more organisations that join, the more people will recognise the symbol, and the easier it will be for the people who wear it.
Well, that's wonderful because I know that Brain Injury Tasmania came up with something called the National Assistance Card, which is kind of like a license for having a brain injury or for anything neurological. But this is just so much easier because there's no need to explain yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it, and that's why it resonated so strongly with me, because I'm the guy who doesn't want to talk about it much, although I am now. But for many years I didn't, and it just means that you can just have this subtle signal to people, and you don't have to disclose what disability is, and that's its strength. I think people recognise it, and more people will recognise it, and you'll get the help you need. And for me, that's nowhere near as much as some other people. My main challenge is the standing and the walking. So at sporting events, airports would be my most challenging environment, and public transport. And so I wear it then. But it's not just for people who have a permanent disability, it's also temporary. So you might have like a hip replacement, and you are struggling with your everyday life in various aspects for a few months or a year, you can still wear it. Anyone can wear it.
Yeah.
So it's temporary as well as permanent
No,
disabilities, and it takes lots of different forms.
that's really, really fantastic that you said that, because my dad just had a triple bypass and
Yep.
he's finding life very, very difficult. And so I should recommend this to him.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
one of our member organisations, somebody within that organisation, talk about their father just recently as well in a similar situation. I said, absolutely, that's what it's for. And like myself, I wear it sometimes, but not other times. So it's not something you have to put on every time you walk out the door. Some people will because they'll need that help.
Yeah.
But for me, I generally only wear it in those environments where it helps. And it's made such a big difference to me. A couple of sport, I love my sport, so a couple of sporting examples. I went to the Australian Open last year and they were fantastic. I was able to go to the front of the line and not have to queue up for a long time, which made a huge difference. I could then enjoy the event. And I think also the airport scenario as well, like Sydney Airport, it's great going there now.
Yeah.
Like I used to be quite fearful of
Yes.
that experience. They're so friendly there, and being able to just move quickly through that environment, so I'm not standing as much.
Yeah.
Going to the cricket in a couple of weeks in Adelaide, I remember as well. So they have a sort of a sensory space where people can just have time out.
Defrag.
That's right, exactly. And that's what I need. I'll be able to watch the game for a while, then go and lie down and just have those breaks.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is a game changer.
Excellent. Tell me how you go about your advocacy work.
Yeah, so I'm essentially someone who just does the advocacy side. There's an amazing team at the Hidden Disability Sunflower. It's a small, powerful team, and they do a lot of the work with members to bring them on board and implement. My role is really awareness raising. So I do that through a few different forms. I speak a lot within workplaces for both sort of prospective and existing members, just about my own experience and how it can help. So it's sort of anything that really involves advocating for the program and also for people with hidden disabilities as well. So podcasts and various things. So yeah, anytime, anywhere, anyone, I'll talk to them to try and raise awareness because I think it's a great concept.
Thanks for being on the show today, James.
Thanks, Eva. It's been great.